September. Families like Deanna Beano's are caught in the middle of a welfare crunch. Today, payments were cut by another 1.8%. Beano's AFDC check has shrunk by $43 in 3 months. September 1st, she was getting $745. In October, that fell to $712, and today it was reduced to $702. Beano's afraid she'll become homeless and may have to leave the state to survive.
I think they want the poor people out. They're blaming the whole economy on the welfare system, but I don't think it's there. I think there's no jobs for people to work, so they're making more welfare people.
The state also has changed the rules to allow working parents up to 100 hours per month on the job without losing all of their assistance.
Deanna and other
policies are going to encourage people to get off of welfare and onto a payroll.
The $2 check Deanna receives today, $525 of that will go to pay her rent. All total, Deanna and her children will have $177 to live on this month after rent. That's $10 less than last month. The state hopes that kind of cut will prompt people like Deanna to get a job.
That's not going to make me go to work because there's nowhere to work.
Deanna says even if she could find a job with her high school education, child care costs would eat up any gain. But at the State Social Services Department, Director Eloise Anderson says people like Deanna need to realize times are changing.
Some changes are painful, and this is going to be a little painful for us to think about women as breadwinners. And that's what we're really saying on the AFDC, is that we really consider you a breadwinner. We consider you part and responsible for some of the financial well-being of that child.
Anderson points out the state has programs to provide daycare, but the directing attorney for the Western Center on Law and Poverty says the subsidized system covers only about 25% of those who need it.
Well, what they're not doing is creating any jobs or creating any positive work incentives. This is only a reduction in assistance.
Nobody on welfare is living well. We're surviving. Maybe.
And maybe, Deanna says, survival will mean life on the streets. Tracy, Bryan, Channel 3 reports.
Cuts on behalf of welfare
tonight. Some are saying the cuts go too far.
This month, Santa might not come.
Deanna Beano feels like the Grinch stole Christmas this year. But at the State Social Services Department, Director Eloise Anderson says people like Deanna need to realize times are changing.
Some changes are painful, and this is going to be a little painful for us to think about women as breadwinners.
But the directing attorney for the Western Center on Law and Poverty says the subsidized system covers only about 25% of those who need it.
Well, what they're not doing is creating any jobs or creating any positive work incentives. This is only a reduction in assistance.
Tracy, Bryan, Channel 3 reports.
Then the search for a way to overhaul the welfare system.
Carol, the Clinton administration has just announced its health reform plan. Now it's looking for ways to reform the welfare system. Today it came to Sacramento looking. I'm Greg Larson. I'll have a live report.
But a major overhaul of the entire welfare system may be just around the corner. The federal government may end required minimum payments, give the states a fixed sum, and let the states run their own programs. As political reporter Greg Larson tells us tonight, one retrained recipient fears that in cutting welfare programs, the state may also be cutting some people's hope.
There was hope to give us something and to give an education, give something to where we could get into a work field to support a family by yourself.
Elizabeth Moore is back at work nearing the end of some 4 years on welfare. She took care of 2 kids on $607 a month while she got legal secretary training in a state program. If those welfare payments were any less, she says, she couldn't have taken the time for the training.
If the grants were even smaller, I probably would just went straight into whatever I could find just to live off of.
Well, we're really more focused on getting people into work and the first rung of work.
The state's director of social services says 4 years is too long, and the state needs to be careful about how much it gives out in grants.
When does the benefit level get in the way of work? Because it takes you so much in terms of what you make per hour, what you make per year, to overcome what you make on AFDC.
Anderson backs a federal block grant program where the states would get a fixed pot of federal dollars to run a program as it likes without required minimum grants.
The block grant system ends any assurance that a needy family and children can count on help when they need it, because the money can just run out.
McKeever says block grants would allow states to cut spending so much that kids could be at risk, especially without the guaranteed minimums.
Perhaps motivate some states to make their programs as miserly as possible to, in fact, discourage poor people from being here.
Anderson says the state will help people get training for basic work, just enough so they can compete in the marketplace. But Elizabeth Moore worries they may cut too much out of basic support, slowing the escape from poverty for some women. She says welfare is something most women really don't ever want to turn to, much less stay on for long.
A lot of times I only like people to know where I'm at because of the quote-unquote name that has been put on the welfare mother. And, you know, it's like it just, and I mean, you feel terrible. You feel dirty a lot of times because of it.
The state's director of social services, Eloise Anderson, insists that the state's program using block grants, if they're approved by the federal government, is not designed to pull the rug out from under welfare recipients. She says the goal is to get people back to work and off to work more quickly. But opponents of this reform say, given the Wilson administration's form on this, cutting welfare benefits for the past 4 years, they're afraid the benefits will be cut below survival rate for welfare recipients. Anderson says she can't speculate right now because the block grants haven't been approved about how much the levels of payments would be, but she says this is an entire package of benefits and we should watch that and look at that whole picture. This debate is just heating up. Back to you.
I was going to say, Greg, we have not heard the end of this presidential politics.
It's just starting.
Big deal.
It really is.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Republican presidential candidate Steve Forbes is expected to begin an all-out media blitz in California as early as this week. The